At HCL Tech, we view diversity as a differentiator, which is a representative of diversity in beliefs, behaviors, and skills within the organization. And through various programs and initiatives, we seek to provide a blended experience of career growth, networking, and knowledge sharing. And with this intent, we are happy to start today's virtual Feminspiration, where women leaders from our clients, technology, and partner community are invited to address HCLites. And in the last 3 years, we've done over 100 of these sessions and engaged with more than 150 women leaders through this forum. And we are delighted to share that today's Feminspiration session is on the theme, Anything is Possible when you dream, believe, achieve, repeat. Now, let me introduce our eminent guest for the day, Sangeetha Rai. So she's Vice President, Customer Success at Northwestern Mutual, based in New Jersey, USA. She's an accomplished leader with over 20 years of experience in leading globally distributed teams, delivering exceptional customer success, service delivery, operations, and technology solutions. Now, as the executive sponsor for Women in Tech at Northwestern Mutual, she's committed to moving the needle on gender diversity in the tech industry. Through various initiatives, she's dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion and aims to achieve a 50-50 split of women in technology. And in addition to her professional achievements, she also serves on the board of Red Cross Wisconsin, Milwaukee Tech Hub, and Concero, demonstrating a commitment to her community and beyond. And on a personal level, she loves to travel and explore the world. From driving coast to coast in the US to visiting all continents except for Antarctica, she's always up for a new challenge and exciting adventure. Without much ado, anything is possible when you dream, believe, achieve, repeat. Sangeetha, we would love to have your thoughts on this topic.
I am so happy to be here, and thank you, HCL and Deepa, you for having me here. So, dream, believe, achieve, repeat. I know firsthand how transformative this mantra can be. These empowering words have been instrumental in transforming me from a young girl who was from India and unsure of herself to a confident woman, mother, public speaker, and an executive at Northwestern Mutual. I arrived in the US 22 years ago, but I had this fire within me that burned bright, and I knew I had to do something. I had to be someone. So, I started by asking myself a very simple question that all of you should ask yourself. Where do I want to be in the next 5 years? And as I closed my eyes, I envisioned myself leading people, contributing to my community, and making a positive impact to everybody around me. And that became my guiding star. And with that vision, I set out to make that a reality. I said yes to every opportunity that led me to that guiding star, either directly or indirectly, and I declined the ones that didn't. And sometimes doors opened for me, and sometimes when I found an opportunity, I went after it and I opened the doors myself. So it wasn't always easy. Many times I was given the opportunities and I didn't know how to handle them. I was doing them for the first time, but I said yes to them anyway, and I figured out as I went along. It is crucial that we are our biggest cheerleaders and we believe in our abilities, because being women in tech, there are only 26% women in tech and even less women of color. Research shows that women apply for jobs only if they meet 100% of the qualifications. And men will apply for jobs if they meet 60% of the qualifications. So as women and girls, we have to be bold, believe in ourselves, and relentlessly pursue our dreams. So one exercise that has helped me, and I do this every day, is I take a moment to congratulate myself on everything that I've accomplished, big and small. And this actually helps me reflect on what I've achieved. And it's like, wow, you did this, that's great. And then also believe that I can do anything that I set my mind to. As you achieve your dreams, it's important for you to remember and celebrate your wins, no matter if they're big or small, and accept the recognitions and accolades that come your way. As women, and growing up in India, had this social conditioning to be very modest about my achievements. And for a long time, I would be extremely humble and belittle myself when I received praise for my accomplishments. And I would downplay my worth, and I shrink myself, convinced that I didn't deserve it. And what I've learned is that you are what you think, and our thoughts shape our identity. We need to be our biggest supporters, cheering ourselves on and celebrating our accomplishments by saying, I am so proud of myself. And I can't see you, but I can see Deepa. What I'm going to ask you to do is to spend a second, think about your biggest accomplishment so far for a second. Okay, now say to yourself, I'm so proud of myself, and do this every day. You may be wondering, once I achieve my dream, my North Star, then what, right? What I've learned is that I cannot rest on my laurels for too long, and I need to repeat the powerful mantra, dream, believe, and achieve. I also realized that what got me here won't necessarily get me to where I want to go, which is my next dream. I need to preserve what's most powerful about me and evolve from there. I want to share with you my favorite story of a Buddhist monk, and this story taught me this lesson. So there was a Buddhist monk who had this dream of studying in a monastery, his dream monastery, and as he was walking towards this, he faced the challenge of crossing a river. And he believed in himself. He tried to build a raft. He failed several times. He gave himself a failure quota, and he was able to build this beautiful raft that allowed him to successfully cross this river. And he celebrated his win, and he vowed to keep this raft with him always. And then he faced a new obstacle, which was the forest. And as he had this raft on his back, and as he was walking, this now became a hindrance to him, right? So he tried to walk among the trees, and it became a hindrance. And what he had to do was use his strength and his resourcefulness to get through the forest. He had to use his skills and build something that will help him get to his dream. And so thing to remember is what got you here won't get you there. So I encourage you to embrace the power of this mantra. So keep dreaming bigger, keep believing in yourself, and persist until you achieve your goals. And when you do achieve them, keep going. Repeat that process again and again and see where it takes you. What I read was 85% of the jobs today won't exist, in 2030. And there's going to be a ton of new jobs, a ton of learnings to do. And there is a world full of infinite possibilities, and you never know how far you go until you try. Thank you, and back to you, Deepa.
Thank you so much, Sangeetha. That's such an inspiring story, and really nice to hear how you crafted your dream, you pursued it relentlessly, and you achieved, and you repeat it every day, like you say, and that's hugely important to keep growing and keep believing and achieving and delivering on our dreams. And while we do that, Sangeetha, maybe we can shift to some questions, and I can ask you some questions on this and have a conversation around this topic. While we do that, how do you suggest one becomes focused and consistent to achieve our dreams? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and being focused and consistent is super important. The number one thing I would say is know your strengths. For me, my strengths are my personality, and I'm very, very tenacious, right? So it's important for you to recognize and acknowledge your strengths. You can either do it yourself by reflection, and you can also ask the people around you. So that is very important. That's important for your brand. And then the second piece is grounding, where as you're trying to be focused on your dreams, I mentioned a few things that happened with me. It's important for you to be grounded, right? So you have to find what grounds you. It's different for different people. For me, it's 20 minutes of each of meditation, yoga, and walking every single day, and also being thankful for what I have. So if I do that every day, no matter what anybody says, no matter what happens, I'm at peace, I'm grounded, and I'm focused on moving along. The other piece is the distractions. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be in your head. How do I balance work, home, and everything in between? So for that, I would say, when you go home today, think of one thing that you can delegate. It could be anything, and just have someone else do it. And then the second piece is, as women, and we are so focused on everything being perfect, that sometimes we're really hard on ourselves, and you want to be a perfect mother, you want to be perfect at work, and what that does is it sometimes stops you from going where you want to go. So let some things go. It's okay if your bed is not made perfectly. It's okay if you have children and your toys are scattered one day. It's okay. And if you don't get to that last email that's non-critical that day, it's okay. So let some things go and continue to be focused. And the third piece, first was delegate, second was let some things go, and the third piece was ask your network, right? So if you're struggling to do something, and someone else is doing it really well, reach out and ask the question. People are actually good. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to ask them, and if they say no, they say no. But if they do say yes, then I'm going to learn something. So the thing that I've learned is that no means not yet. So just because you don't achieve something today, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen ever. So continue to persist and continue to go ahead after your dream.
No means not yet. That's a very good way to think about it. I really like that, Sangeetha. And as you go through pursuing your dreams, you must have come across some obstacles that you would have faced to get through. Success doesn't come easy. Would you want to share some of those with us?
Yeah, definitely. It's never easy, right? And we have to remember that, like, everyone that's successful has gone through the pains and the tribulations that come along with it. For me, being a woman in tech, there was a lot, like, from above me as well as people that reported to me. When I reached, the stereotype that people have of Asians is that you are a good contributor, but when it comes to being a leader, it's like there is that bamboo ceiling, right? How dare you think about being a leader? So many times, like I mentioned in my speech, I had the work, but I did not have the title or the salary to go with it. So at those moments, I had to recognize the value. That's why self-belief is so important, and demand for what I deserve. And demanding doesn't mean you go emotional and go about it. You have to be very objective. So pretty much every promotion that I've gotten in my career has been because I've been very objective and said, listen, I have the scope, I have all these accomplishments, and then when I look at the industry, this is where my position should be. So can you help me understand what else I need to do, right? So it's important for you to recognize your value and demand for what you deserve. That is as you move higher. And then, sometimes as women, and this happened to me many years ago, it's in my first leadership position, you may have people that don't want to work for you, right? So the first time I got promoted as a leader, it was a small team, and the first person, let's call him the refuser, he actually came to me and he said, you know what, you're not qualified to lead me, I'm not going to work for you, and he quit, right? And the second person, let's call him the berater, he worked for me, but every meeting he would try to put me down because he didn't feel like he should work for me. This was many years ago, I would say, like maybe 15 years ago. And then so that we had the refuser, we had the berater, and then the third person, let's call him patronizer, he would tell me, oh, we are so proud of you, like, he's my dad or something. So I had this pressure from people on top of me because I wasn't being recognized. I had this pressure from people below me who didn't want to work for me. So this can mess with your head sometimes. You're listening to all these people around you, and then you say, oh my God, do I really deserve this? Do I really provide any value? And at that point, you have to remember to believe in yourself. You have to ground yourself. Like I mentioned, the yoga, meditation, and walking grounds me. You have to find what grounds you. Give yourself a failure quota and don't let that, cloud your vision and for the future. And then the next piece I would say is, if you haven't read this, you should read it. It's the aggregation of marginal gains, which is get 1% better every single day in something that you choose to be. Believe it or not, I have anxiety public speaking. And when I had to say, to become a leader, I have to be good at public speaking. How do I get better at this every single day? And really, really work on that. And so, I've spoken at Grace Hopper, which is the largest tech conference in the world. I put out Instagram videos pretty much every single day on my Instagram account. So, just kind of going after, just trying and getting 1% better every day is super important. I would say that, if 99% of the people in the room don't believe in you, there's going to be one person that does, and listen to that person, because that person is you.
That so resonates with everything I'm sure that our audience as well goes through. And I guess for all women in tech, it's the points you talk about are things that resonate. So thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Thank you, Sangeetha. And if you had to distill it, what would you say is the key to achieving one's dream?
Yeah, it's what I mentioned in my speech before. It's having your North Star. Defining where is that vision of where you want to go. It doesn't have to be fully detailed, but at least having an idea of where you want to go, right? So I would recommend, if you haven't read it, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There is, even if you don't read the book, there is an exercise that he calls it the funeral exercise, but I've done something called as a retirement exercise. What you do is write out your retirement speech, right? Write it out as if someone is reading it to you during your retirement, or when you're leaving this particular role. And when you write it out, you will see what you want people to say about you, and what is it that you want to do, and where is it that you want to go, and start manifesting it, right? For me, when I wrote out my retirement speech, I wrote that I want to be a public speaker. I want to be a known public speaker. And I'm actually going to do a TED Talk this year, a TEDx actually. And so every day, manifestation is really important. And I say to myself, I've already done this TED Talk. It's already been successful. Like, just pretend like it's already happened. Pretend like you've already achieved that dream, because then what it does is that gives you more and more confidence to get to where you want to go.
So many great points, Sangeetha, coming out in the questions we've already discussed, chatted. And if there was one thing that people in the audience today do as a result of this conversation, what would you like that to be?
Yeah, I would say the one thing is dream, right? You have to have a dream, and you have to define what success means to you, right? For some of us, it's to take a break and spend time with family. For some of us, it's to focus on our career. For some of us, it's to choose to have kids. Some of us, it's choose not to have kids. Whatever it is that your dream is, wherever it is that you want to go, that is your dream, and you have to go after it. And it can change, right? And the second thing is that you have to be, as you go through your dream, you have to be okay with the sacrifices that come along with it. Find one action, big or small, and go after it. One of the statistics that I read is, and I mentioned it before, is that if there is a job opening, women will only apply if 100% of the qualifications you meet them, and then men will apply if they meet 60. So I would say, the most important thing, the one thing I'm going to say, is to dream, and maybe it's two things now, then go after it.
No, perfect. And not to feel guilty as you choose some of the options and let go of some of the others, because I think that's another thing that we as women tend to do, is feel guilty of things that we can't be 100% of. I resonate with that. Brilliant. And Things that we've spoken about just now makes a lot of sense in terms of how we get ahead professionally. Have these filtered into your personal growth as well, Sangeetha?
Yeah, Deepa, they absolutely have. You know, when you dream and you go after it, you have that glow. You're happier. You've defined what success looks for you in your life, and you're going after it. You're pursuing after it, and people around you can see that glow. I'm a mom, and I have two kids, Sonia and Nikhil. My daughter is 18. My son is 15. So personally, as I've grown in my professional career, it's helped me personally as well, because I've become very much patient with my kids, right? And I allow for failure. And this kind of ties down to don't be a perfectionist, let some things go. There were a lot of times, I was really busy with work, and my kids would get these letters from school to say, tomorrow is red day, or day after is blue day, or whatever those things are. And the thing that I told the kids is that you have to remember it, and you have to tell me what to buy. I am not going to go through your backpack and find that. So the first one or two times they missed it, and it was hard on me as a mom, but I had to let it go. But then after that, they were like, Mom, you have to sign this form, you have to do this, you have to do this. So what that helped them do is that it helped them become more responsible for their day and what they were going through in school as well. And the second thing is that what I've learned is that, it's good, studying all of that in school is good, but I have to allow my children to be curious, and being good in studies is not the only thing, right? So I try to help my children. Travel helps, like understanding different people and how they work helps. I want them to be very good human beings, and I think the rest will follow. So it's helped me that way. And it has also helped me become a much better partner, because I focus to my husband, because I focus on the big picture. Many of you who have spouses know there are disagreements that happen, and you have to let some things go. And sometimes two things can be true at the same time. So that's something that I learned professionally, and I have to stop myself and say, look, I have this point of view, my husband has this point of view, he's also right and I'm also right, so how do we let it go, right? And then the third piece is confidence. Like really, the more confident I became professionally, the more I became confident personally as well. And being more authentically me. There was a couple of years ago, I had an executive coach who told me, if you look like the way you look and dress like the way you dress, you will never reach the C-suite. And at the time I said, why would that be? And he said, go Google all these women in the C-suite. And I actually Googled them, and I found that they had short hair, they dressed more conservatively. And he said, you need to do that. So I said, okay, I want to get to where I want to go. So I cut my hair. I started to dress very conservatively. And I did that for 6 months. And gosh, I felt like it wasn't me. I was miserable. It was not authentically me. So then I said, you know what? I don't care. If I don't see these types of leaders, I am going to be the leader that I wish to see. So I started doing what's me, dressing the way I want, speaking the way I want, bringing authenticity to work, and it has really helped me professionally, and then personally too. I'm in my 40s, and then there's this thing like, oh, women in 40s shouldn't do this, dress like this, do whatever else, and I'm like, you know what? This is me. This makes me happy. And I can bring happiness to everyone around me, being me. So I go ahead and do it. So definitely what I've learned professionally has helped me become a better mom, a better partner, and then just better me.
And you spoke there about confidence, patience, and being authentically you. That's really inspiring and nice to hear that in such a concise way of how you would want to think about yourself. They're all important factors, I see. What, in your opinion, contributes to being successful?
Yeah, it's two things. One is preserving what's most powerful about you, and then evolving from there, right? Like I said, for me, it's I am warm to people. People are drawn to me. I'm also very tenacious, but I don't have a lot of other things. And that's where the 1% getting better every day comes in. And that's why I have to continue to evolve. And the next thing is, don't be scared, right? Just do it. Like if it's moving you towards where you want to go, be scared, actually be scared and do it anyway, is what I would say. I love adventure sports. So I have jumped 14,000 feet off a plane when I skydived. I've done 80 feet off a cliff. But when people ask me what is the scariest thing I've done, it's like being and bringing my authentic self every day, because it's sometimes those are things that I have not done, especially in my company or wherever in my community or things like that. And the thing that I remember is and every one of us should remember, it's not about me, right? It's not just about me. It's for what's to follow. So I have an 18-year-old daughter. I have a 15-year-old son. I have so many young colleagues and friends and nieces and nephews, and what I'm doing is for everybody else to follow, because if I do this, it's going to be easy for them. So I would say that as you're thinking about it as a person that's towards your successful goals or your dreams, the thing to remember is also that it's bigger than just you, and be scared and do it anyway.
Says, good thoughts. Kindly put some light on what are the practices one should follow which can help in choosing the right direction or path for a successful journey. Hard work fails if not chosen the right path or direction.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things you need to do. First, you need to know what you want, right? And then you need to figure out how to get there. So I'll give you my own example. So one of the things I mentioned to you all, I want to do a TEDx talk, right? So I had to speak to people, I had to network, use your network and find, if it's a job that you want to do, like shadow and ask them. Actually, it's important for us to, when we have people that are doing things really well, to number one, keep an open mind and learn from them, put our ego at the door and really learn, like reach out to people and say, like, how did you get here? What are some tips that you can give for someone that's getting here? Read books on how to get, and yes, hard work is important, but also that's one aspect of things. If you just work hard but you don't believe in yourself, if you don't showcase what you do, if you don't reach out and ask people, that's not going to help you. So there's a ton of different things you need to do to get to where you want to go.
Another quick question. Do you have any advice for women to establish themselves in a tech company that they've joined recently?
Yeah, so the number one thing I would say, branding is super important. So I would say one homework for you all is think about what is the 1 to 3 things you want people to think about you as your brand, right? So when you're not in the room, they need to be able to say, Deepa is blah, blah, blah. When you are in the room and you speak, they need people to say Deepa is blah. It's the exact same thing. So if you Google brand words, a bunch of things will come out. But a few years ago, what I said was that my one word was going to be inspiring. So everything that I do, everything that I say is going to inspire people. And I will tell you, honestly, every day I get messages like, you inspired me with this, or you inspired me with that. And now it's about like, hey, how do I inspire people, but also get into the world of AI? So that's what people associate me with, and that's what I'm doing. So I think it's super important when you get into a new company, you need to say, do I want people to view me as an expert? Do I want them to view me as a leader? Whatever that is, you need to tie it to that end vision that I was telling you about, but you need to build your brand, and your brand can evolve as it goes.
Yeah, know yourself. Craft your own dream.
Yes,
brilliant.
Love that. Yes.
Another question here. What do you do when you feel demotivated or low?
Yes, and that happens, a lot of times in life, right? We have things that are outside our control, and that's when we feel demotivated or low. The number one thing is that continue to keep yourself grounded, right? and then that actually helps you be at peace. And the thing that I have learned is to focus on what I can control. A lot of times people around you may not include you in a project, may not include you in something else that's happening. You may not be promoted, but those are things that are outside your control right now. What's in your control at that point is, hey, what is the next interesting project I can take? What is the next job that I can do? How can I get myself better, right? And the other tactic that I use every time that I hear bad news is that I will just, for the next 2 days, this is my survival tactic. Number one, be a crybaby, right? It's just let out your feelings, feel how you feel. It's okay. And then the next piece is that do what grounds you, like go for a walk, do yoga, whatever that is, work out, whatever else. And then the next piece is write down all the things that you need to do as next steps, right? Block out like 2 hours of unlimited time, 2 hours of time for unlimited brainstorming of no matter how crazy it is, here's all the things I'm going to do to as my next step. And then find an accountability partner and say, hey, listen, I'm going through this is what I'm doing, here are my next steps, I'm going to touch base with you, right? And talk, you can talk to your family, talk to your therapist or your friend that you really trust, and share your feelings. So those are my survival techniques for 2 days of whenever I hear bad news.
Yeah, and of course you've got the yoga and the walking and the meditation.
Yeah. Yes.
Question here is, there are a lot of stereotypes around women. How do we break this glass ceiling and get the right opportunities that one deserves?
Yeah, and I talked about this before, right? So there's a ton of stereotypes about women. Number one is that maybe you're good enough to be a contributor but not good enough to be a leader. And I told you have to have that conversation. You have to be very objective. You have to have all the data. And the second thing is that it starts with you, right? A lot of times when we think about, and I've made this mistake before, I'm very, very conscious now, is that when you think about like a doctor or a male dominated field, right? Or tech person, you always say he, or, so try to be, you yourself, like we ourselves need to be very conscious of like us using some of these stereotypes as well. And the other piece is that the words matter. The words that we say absolutely matter. So when this starts with us, like I said, when women do something, it's like, oh, she's being very aggressive. And when a man does the same thing, and this is I have a son, I love the men around me, I'm just using the words that come out. It's usually like, oh, that he's really assertive. And when we say something, it's like, oh, she's getting so emotional. And for a man, it's like, oh, he's so passionate, right? So, and a lot of times we ourselves as women do that as well. And it's important for us, and it's important for allies who are here. And I'm so happy that we have allies supporting us here. Just thinking about the words that we use, because it's, like I said before, it's not just about you. You have daughters, you have nieces, you have nephews. And when you do this, you're making it better for everyone else to follow as well. So yeah, starting, making sure you ask for what you deserve, as well as just check yourself too, because when you do it, it makes it better. And the last piece is the authenticity story I said. There was a LinkedIn article that my company had written about me for Women's Day, and it was about my mom and her professional career and how that translates to me and my daughter. And they asked me, can you give us a picture of your family? And the last picture I had was of us in a sari, because we had gone to a wedding. And I sent them the picture and I started to freak out. I was like, oh, if I send this picture, I'm wearing a sari, I'm in America, Northwestern Mutual doesn't have anybody with more like Indian clothes or anything. What will our field say something? Will this affect my promotion? And these are things that go through people's heads as they do something new. So I talked to my boss, and it's important for us as to be good bosses to help change some of these stereotypes too. So I reached out to my boss and I asked him, listen, I'm freaking out because I sent this picture and it's going to be on the Northwestern Mutual social channels. And he said to me, listen, do you think that it would matter to me that you wore a sari? in your picture? I said, no. He said, if you're applying for a job somewhere else and that company has a problem with that picture, would you want to work for them? I said, no. He said, then why do you care? So I actually was like, okay. And then I got tons of emails from women, from people of color saying, thank you for posting that, because it made it okay for us to start becoming ourselves too. So again, it's not about you, it's bigger than you, and you make an impact to people around you.
Yeah, and fighting these stereotypes and trying to be authentically you, whatever that is, and not being defined by women are supposed to be this way. I think that's absolutely important in the workspace, especially for technology, where we have a lot of men in a male-dominated industry. And I like that point that you raised about being assertive and firm, and how maybe you can make that as a brand as well for yourselves in the organization you work for. So you're creating that as a brand for you to take forward. Thank you so much. Another question here. At times when trying to be authentic and following our goals, we tend to hurt the expectation of our loved ones. How do you deal with any such situation?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and but I'll come back to that anger thing. One of the other things I've realized is, especially in emails, sometimes things can get translated pretty badly. Like if you're back and forth, going back and forth with someone on email. So I usually just will talk to them, because that will not maybe frustrate me. And the other thing is that I always assume that emails are always going to be forwarded. So I make sure that I take the time, and like I'm grounded and I centered before I respond as well, because you want to make sure that whatever you're feeling inside is not coming outside, and then being your authentic self. Yes, it may hurt people, but they're going to, if they truly love you, they're going to support you to be your authentic self, right? And a lot of times, people will say things. Sometimes it's your own parents, like for me, this is funny, but it's also sad. My mom was like, the other day, 2 months ago, she says to me, you should cut down on some sugar. And I said to her, why? And she said, just, and it'll help you tone down, it'll help you look good. And I was like, Mom, I'm happy the way I am. Like, so why are you telling me to be different? I'm actually very content. And I understand like these things can mess with your head, right? That's that. And then the second piece is that if you're coming out with a big life change, a lot of my friends, they're either trans or gay, or from the LGBTQ plus communities, and sometimes it's being authentically you is hard for the parents as well, and as well as it's hard for you. I think that being authentically you is absolutely important, but also understanding that two truths can be true at the same time. Like their feelings, because they grew up a certain way, they have a certain way of thinking. We acknowledge that, but they have to come along, and I think like having a little bit of patience of how you bring them along, understanding where they're coming from is important too. So hopefully this helps.
Yeah, thanks, Sangeetha. Another one here, in terms of how can organizations promote gender equality within their organization, and how do one make a confident space for women in the work environment?
Yeah, it's really again on you. And at Northwestern Mutual, we have a couple of different things we've done. We have enterprise resource groups, or ERGs, where people can join and learn more about that particular community. We have Asian ERG, African American ERG, we have Pride, we have military, a couple of different ERGs. So you don't have to be, the organizations have to encourage people to join, and you don't have to be to belong, right? So I am not a military veteran, but I joined that because I want to learn about the hardships that they have. And then and so that's one thing. And then the second piece is that they have to give a lot of space for us to speak how we feel. And that's what Northwestern Mutual, we've had a ton of listening sessions in where it's closed door, and you can really vent how you're feeling, and they will take action. And the other thing is that, and this is specifically for leaders, what I started on my team was called DEI moments. diversity, equity, inclusion moments. It's a 10-minute session in my town hall. So I have about 550 people that report into my organization. And every month I have a town hall. So that's 10 minutes dedicated, and it's a Q&A with somebody, and it could be on different topics. We've done like being women in tech. We've done somebody that was trans on my team talked about like their experience. Somebody that was Black on my team talked about their experience. So it could be like different things. Growing up in India, I was exposed to the caste system. So we had somebody from our India team talk about the caste system and how that's prevalent and how that's getting better now. And after that, we have another session if people are interested to go and learn more about it. So I think it's important for us to remember that everyone's journey is different, and the most we can do is give them the opportunity to learn and give them the opportunity to reflect and change, right? And the thing that I will ask you, and what I have done, because I'm a woman of color, for me, D&I was just women and women and being a person of color. But then I started to realize, like, oh my God, how much privilege do I have? I'm able-bodied. I am wealthy. I have all these other things that other people do not have. So I have to use my privilege to people and be a good ally to people. I'm straight. So those are things that in this world are a privilege. So I have to use those to help other people, and people that are, men and, white men need to use, or white women have to use that privilege of helping someone like me. So it's a circle of us all helping each other.
Yeah. How do we use our privilege to be a good ally? No, excellent. Thank you for that, Sangeetha. Wonderful listening to you. Are there any closing thoughts you would like to make, Sangeetha?
Oh, wow. Yes. So I do. I've said this before, only 26% of women are in technology. So all of you women that are here, you have a privilege, and all of the allies that are watching us here, you have a privilege, and we have to think bigger than us and make a difference, right? Some of you listening to me may have piping doubts. Where do I start? And even if I do something, will it really matter? And I'm going to ask you to look for inspiration in the humble honeybee. So honeybees can show us that thinking small may be the best way to think big. So Marianne Gee, she's a bookkeeper. Watch her TED Talk if you haven't. She talks about how a bee can help us think differently. So the lifespan of a bee ranges from 6 weeks in the summer to 20 weeks in the winter. And most of her brief existence is spent gathering nectar to make honey. So a bee in her lifetime only makes 1/12 of the teaspoon of honey. So it's a tiny fraction of the hundreds of pounds of honey that a typical colony needs to survive. So, the most remarkable thing is that the bee doesn't even do it for herself. A bee won't directly benefit from the honey she makes. Instead, it'll allow for future generations to thrive after she's gone. And this too is how we can make a difference, by not worrying about the size of our contributions and by letting our efforts join the action of others. So every time we use our privilege and we make space for one more woman or one more person of color or one more person that's disabled or somebody that's LGBTQ or whatever that is that we have a privilege of, and one more opportunity for them, that we know that we're doing our part to make things better for everyone else, not just for today, but future.
Wonderful.